The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
There was a scholar of the law who stood up to test Jesus and said, "Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus said to him, "What is written in the law? How do you read it?" He said in reply, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your being, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." He replied to him, "You have answered correctly. Do this, and you will live." But because he wished to justify himself, he said to Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied, A man fell victim to robbers, and he went down from Jerusalem to Jericho. They stripped and beat him and went off, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down that road, but when he saw him, he passed by on the opposite side. Likewise, a Levite came to the place, and when he saw him, he passed by on the opposite side. But a Samaritan traveler who came upon him was moved with compassion at the sight. He approached the victim, poured oil and wine over his wounds, and bandaged them. Then he lifted him up on his own animal, took him to an inn, and cared for him. The next day he took out 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper with the instruction, "Take care of him. If you spend more than what I have given you, I shall repay you on my way back." Which of these 3, in your opinion, was neighbor to the robber's victim? He answered, "The one who treated him with mercy." Jesus said, "Go and do likewise." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Once was a little old lady who was nearing the end of her life, and she hadn't made a will, so she went to a lawyer and said, "I don't own any property, I don't have much money, a little bit of money in the bank, but when I die I want it to go to my church. So I need a will, and could you help me?" And the lawyer took pity on her, said, "Oh, okay, it's going to be a simple will. I'll do it for $100. She agreed and did the will, handed it to her, and she handed him a nice, crisp $100 bill and went on her way. Later that night, as he was getting ready to leave, the lawyer picked up the $100 bill and was going to file it, and then he noticed there was actually another $100 bill stuck to it. 2 $100 bills. And he sat there and said, "Boy, I have a real moral dilemma on my hands right now. She paid me an extra $100 without knowing it. Should I tell my partner?" Yeah, okay. You know how lawyers are. Well, in real life, moral dilemmas are a little trickier than that. And most dilemmas, moral dilemmas that we face, aren't a choice between something good and something bad. Those are easy ones. None of you woke up today and thought, should I go to church or rob a liquor store? You didn't have to make that decision, right? Or if it would have crossed your mind, you made the right decision. But let me ask you this. Let's say you're a doctor, and you have a patient that's dying. And you can make this person's life a little more comfortable by giving them a little extra morphine. Morphine is real good at helping you feel better and more comfortable, and kills pain and all that, but it also depresses your respiratory system. And if you give that person extra morphine, you'll probably shorten their life by a few days. So what are you going to do? Who's going to give the extra morphine? Anybody? Rick? All right, we got a couple people. Rick and Jill are the only one?
I saw my husband's hand go up, so I better stay healthy.
And you,
Yeah.
okay.
I better
And
stay
the rest of you would not, is that right? Oh, you have to vote, there's no abstaining. Either you give the morphine or you don't. All right, we got a few people that definitely would give the extra morphine, even though it would hasten the death of this person who's already dying. And some of you wouldn't, because you're not sure that'd be the right thing to do. All right. How about you have a patient who has emphysema and has to walk around with those little oxygen tanks. And every once in a while, that's not enough, yet she has to check into the hospital with a ventilator, get her breathing back up, and then you wean her off the ventilator and send her back home with her little oxygen tank. And that goes on for years. Then one day she checks in, she can't breathe well enough, and you can't wean her off the ventilator. And you go into her room and say, I'm sorry, we can't seem to get you off the ventilator. And she motions for a pen and paper to write, because she can't talk while she's got the ventilator on. And she writes you a note that says, please turn the machine off. And you're the doctor, you say, if I turn that machine off, you'll be dead in 5 minutes. She writes a note, yes, that's what I want. Who's going to flip that switch? What if the family's against it? Or at least some members of the family are against it. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
You're going to flip
She's
this.
made the decision. She's not crazy. Is she crazy?
Oh, yeah, there, yeah.
No, she's not crazy.
Okay, then
She's of sound mind.
okay. It's on her.
So you're going to respect that decision. Flip the switch, even though your lawyer might advise you against it. Even though there's family members that might be against it. So who's not going to flip that switch? Okay. Tough one, isn't it? I know this one because this is what happened to me, my family, my stepmother. That's exactly what happened to her. And that's exactly what she did. And we as a family had to get together and, in effect, took a vote. Not everybody was in favor of turning that switch on. There was at least one family member that was absolutely and adamantly opposed to it. We decided to flip the switch. We all went in, got a chance to say goodbye, flipped the switch, and she lasted 7 minutes. Not easy decisions. Not easy decisions. And thank God there's some really smart people, way smarter than me, that study this stuff and look at all the moral issues involved in this. But in our normal lives, since none of us are doctors, we have decisions that, like these decisions, aren't a choice between good and bad, but simple decisions about 2 good things, basically. Things where you could go either way. Now, in the gospel today, it looks like the Levite and the priest who passed up the man that was robbed it looks like they just made a bad decision. But if we look at the whole thing, it's not that simple. The road from Jerusalem to Jericho, very long, very dangerous road. It goes from 2,500 feet above sea level all the way down the hillsides on a windy road to Jericho, which is the lowest place on earth, not covered by water. It's 800 feet below sea level. Long, dangerous road, very famous for robbers. You knew your life was in danger if you took that trip. And on top of that, the robbers often did this trick where they would have one of their members pretend to be hurt, crying for help. And then when someone did go to assist them, the other robber would overpower that person. Made it easier for them. So when that Levite passed that guy by, he certainly might have been thinking that this is just a trick to attack me. When the priest passed by, he might have thought that too. He would have had another problem. If he would have gone to help that person and that person died, then he would be considered unclean and he couldn't go in the temple for at least 7 days. Well, if he couldn't go in the temple, he couldn't do his priest then. So maybe he had a legitimate reason for not rushing to this guy's aid. So not a simple decision about what's right or wrong, good or bad, but weighing two good things. So in our little lives, when we have huge decisions like washing the dishes to help somebody out versus watching a football game, letting people in front of us on the freeway, being a little extra kind when we don't have to be. Here's where the message becomes a little clear. From this gospel, Jesus is clearly saying, when you have a choice between two good things, and they're pretty near equal, and you really could go either way, give the benefit of the doubt to love. Give the benefit of the doubt to mercy. Give the benefit of the doubt to God. When in doubt, choose that. Even though you know you can go either way. If you can, favor God, favor love, favor charity, favor mercy. If we all live that way in all our decisions, then we can certainly put this gospel into practice. All this part of our faith, which we now stand and proclaim.